People in Maine may not know or have heard of Rufus Ingalls, who really had a giant role for the Union forces during the Civil War. He was regular Army. He had come up through the ranks. Born in 1818 in Denmark. It was before Maine became a state. His father was one of the men who participated in the first Constitutional Convention when Maine became a state. Stayed active, so that when it came time for Rufus to move on to adulthood, his father was able to land him a position at West Point, where he goes in as, would you believe, he's a classmate of Ulysses S. Grant. Finishes a little higher than Grant in the academic standing, but that's okay. Stays in the Army, is sent to Louisiana, is sent to New Mexico, kind of picked up his chops in figuring out what was going on with logistics. When he was ordered to go on the Steptoe expedition from Leavenworth, Kansas, by land across to California. And when you're marching, I don't care what size army you have, but when you have a force of men moving that distance, how to keep them fed, how to keep them clothed, how to keep them warm, how to keep them protected from the elements, those are things that he picked up on the way. When the war broke out, he had come back east, and they were looking around. George McClellan had run into a kind of a mess in the Overland campaign and had taken over from General John Pope. And Pope had so tied up the wagon trains providing supplies because they all had come through one peninsula. And somebody said, well, get this stuff out of here. He said, how? So the network of roads, which were all unpaved, of course, and the railroad wasn't yet that part of the distribution matrix. In comes Rufus Ingalls, and he shows a particular aptitude for figuring out, how do I move stuff? How do I deliver it where it's needed, when it's needed? Now, it's not easy, and it doesn't always work because weather interferes, troops move faster or slower than expected. But when you start thinking, like, for example, in the Peninsula Campaign, the Army is 80,000 men, and there are another 30,000 plus horses. The estimate is that Ingalls has to provide over 1 million pounds of food per day. Where does he get it? How does it get delivered? How does it be distributed? And Ingalls proves to be very adept at this stuff, so that the Peninsula Campaign is unsnarled in its provision of logistics. Napoleon Bonaparte was credited with saying that an army marches on its stomach. And Ingalls believed that. And he said, if I can keep these guys so that they get at least minimum nutrition, I can get them so that they arrive at a battle scene, or that they can carry themselves over distance to a battle scene and do it effectively. When things turn after the Battle of Gettysburg, and the Army of Potomac is now focused in on chasing down Robert E. Lee and the Army of Northern Virginia. Focused in. They'll capture Richmond if they need to, but the important piece is to get the Army. So he said, we're going forward. There's no retreating, there's no going backwards. And he asks Ingalls, in fact, appoints him, you are going to be the quartermaster of the entire Army of the Potomac. Think about that. An army of 120,000 guys with turnover, providing uniforms, munitions, tents, weapons. How to get them from where they are to where they need to be in numbers. Rufus Ingalls becomes one of the most important generals in the entire army. And he's so important because Lee couldn't keep up with that. Once they shut off the railroad, once they shut off the Shenandoah Valley, the Union Army, it was only a matter of time. But they still had to have their supplies. And when they finally chased down Robert E. Lee at Appomattox, Grant asked Rufus Ingalls to participate in the surrender.
Thanks for watching. And don't miss a single episode as we delve into the fascinating history of Maine's role in the Civil War. Please like and subscribe now